Colombia, authorities found a total of 6.6 pounds of liquid heroin stored inside plastic sacks that were surgically implanted in the stomachs of 6 puppies. The method is known as body packaging and is an extremely dangerous tactic drug dealers have used for years to covertly traffic narcotics. 22 others were arrested in Colombia in connection with the raid after they successfully smuggled over 40 pounds of heroin into the U.S.
A
year ago in Medellin, they used a very sophisticated technique in a place where they kept the dogs under particular conditions. They would perform surgery on the dogs and place the liquid drug inside the abdomen of the animals. They would let them scar and send them to the United States.
U.S. Marshals pushed for the veterinarian-turned-smuggler to be extradited for trial following the raid. But after being discovered, Alorza reportedly went into hiding. He was originally discovered in Spain and arrested in 2013, but was released pending extradition and was finally rearrested in 2015 prior to being charged in the bust. Ethan Viveros, One American News.
Thank you, Ethan. A Utah Veterans Affairs hospital is attempting to clean up its act after photos of a dirty examination room surfaced online. Now, the hospital in Salt Lake City apologized today after he says the hospital will be reviewing policy and procedures to make sure it never happens again. The Department of Education releases a shocking report showing a majority of 8th graders are not meeting the standards for reading or math. That data shows that 65% of 8th graders are not proficient in reading and 67% are not proficient in math. The results are far worse for students in some urban school districts. In Detroit, for instance, only 5% of 8th graders were proficient in math and only 7% in reading. Public schools in Cleveland, Baltimore, and Fresno, California also scored poorly, with less than 15% of students meeting math and reading standards. Still to come on One American News, the Armenian opposition leader tells his supporters to begin a campaign of, quote, civil disobedience.
Languages? Maybe it's because we rely on old ways of learning, and they rely on Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning interactive technology gets you speaking right away, and best of all, remembering what you've learned.
When I started using Babbel, I really got into it.
You're able to retain all this information, remember what you learn without struggling to learn it.
Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons let you learn on the go. Now, you can try Babbel free. In just weeks, you'll have the conversational skills you want to use anywhere. In business meetings, on vacation, with the ones you love.
It's not hard to learn a language if you have the right program.
It improved my accent 1,000%.
The way that it's taught, it really sticks with you.
It's so user-friendly. I love it.
Try Babbel free today. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and see why Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe.
Overseas tonight, Cuba is ramping up its anti-American rhetoric, it seems, during May Day celebrations in Havana. Earlier today, Cuban leaders reaffirmed their commitment to building a society based on socialist values. They also pledged to continue Castro-era policies in the wake of the recent appointment of Miguel Diaz-Canel as new president of Cuba. The May Day rally featured the new president himself, along with top Communist Party officials, such as former President Raul Castro. The Cuban union leaders vowed to continue their fight for workers and against Western capitalism.
Great as always, all the Cuban people next to our leaders supporting the Cuban Revolution and all the people of the world who fight against Yankee imperialism.
Hundreds of thousands of Cuban residents attended that rally. An Armenian opposition leader is calling for a national uprising after he failed to secure the majority of votes to become the country's next prime minister. Recent protests forced the U.S. State Department to release a statement last week, urging all sides to engage in a peaceful dialogue. The European Union applauded the country for following through with a peaceful transition with the opposition leader inching closer and closer to becoming the next prime minister. But after the ruling party blocked his bid today, he's calling on supporters to block roads, railway stations, and even airports. Here's more.
But in the event, the numbers fell short. Tens of thousands of people had been in the square all day, waiting for the vote. As night fell, a defiant Pashinyan told his supporters to remain in the square.
Still to come, illegal immigration is putting pressure on the U.S. judicial system as a new report shows a major backlog of cases. We'll break down those stats coming up. Plus, President Trump outlines what his administration is doing to help.
Out as moments of beginning, in which courses are set that shape decades or centuries. This can be such a moment. What kind of a nation we will be, what kind of a world we will live in, whether we shape the future in the image of our hopes is ours to determine by our actions and our choices.
One America News looks back to moments in history that shaped our country and our world and makes us who we are.
The English Channel sets Great Britain apart from Europe.